Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. My name's Hayden Brown, Human Behaviour Specialist, and this evening I'm going to be speaking about why you're not achieving your health goals. Just quickly, a little bit about me, my background. I specialise in helping people uncover the why and really get clear on what is in the way of them achieving their goals and breaking the patterns or the behaviours that hold them back. So this evening we're speaking a little bit about, again, why you're not achieving your health goals. My hope is that there will be a lot of relevance for those watching. Even if your goal, even if, say, you don't have a particular health-related goal, I'm confident that if you really pay attention and listen to some of the subtleties, there will be a lot of takeaways about how you can achieve your other goals, or certainly start to pull apart for you why you're not achieving them and really what's in the way, because that's what's most important: self-awareness and getting clear on who you are and how you'd love to live your life. So the first thing that's crucial that we start with, and if you ever worked with me or consulted with me in any fashion, or even watched my other videos, it probably won't be a surprise. But it's the first thing that is crucial we start with is human value systems, and essentially what drives us. Because what drives me and thus my behaviours will of course be different to what drives you and how you spend your time, energy, focus, etc. So what do I mean by values? When I refer to values, I'm essentially, another way of thinking about it would be priorities. What are the highest priorities in your life? Now, the reason that I use the word values and priorities in this instance interchangeably, especially for newer clients, to sort of maybe understand my sort of terminology, or certainly the meaning I'm giving it here, is because the word values tends to be quite overused. And what I mean by that is I work with a lot of people, hopefully obvious, and part of that is in more cases than not, I'm going through a specific values facilitation process with clients. And if I was to ask these clients, individuals, friends, family members, what are your values? The common things you hear is trust, love, honesty, integrity. Essentially what I would just call social idealisms. Let's just leave it at social idealisms. I could go on a whole tangent there. But social idealisms. And what I mean by that is they're essentially things that no doubt are important to us, but certainly sound good out loud. And I'll give you an example to illustrate my point. I've never met anyone that wakes up in the morning inspired or motivated and says, I can't wait to be honest today. I can't wait to show integrity to my team, my family. I can't wait to show respect. Doesn't happen. But what might happen is, and maybe you can relate to this, maybe you wake up, I'm inspired to grow my business, or I'm inspired to raise my children, I'm inspired to help people solve meaningful problems. And in the pursuit of that, I will show respect and I will demonstrate trust, loyalty, etc. So hopefully you'll catch by the example that I gave there that trust, love, integrity, these sort of words that many of us throw around without really looking at what really drives us. These let's call them core values. They're certainly not what drives us. They're more traits or actions, again, core values potentially, that we demonstrate along the way within our journey. But they're certainly not the things that drive what we do and what we don't do in the day. And I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this already. Essentially, in many, the individuals who achieve their health goals, of course, have health as a high value. They have health as a priority. So that's just a bit on actually, and again, I could talk for hours on this, and I want to make this, somewhat sort of 18, 20 minutes or less, and actually some clear takeaways, or at least to get you thinking about, what your values are, and equally how you can use this information to achieve your health goals, or again, any other goal you may have. So the first thing is, again, defining, what aren't values. So I'm not referring to social idealisms and that sort of terminology. I'm referring to truly what are the highest priority things in your life. You will know you're in alignment with your values if you have energy, reliability, motivation. No one needs to motivate me to make this video here. It's important to me and to my clients and the people that I serve that I start making educational content that they can rewatch outside of the sessions, or they can forward on to a friend if someone can't afford to see me, etc. That's important to me. So I don't need motivation for that. But I may need motivation to do my accounting, if you ask my accountant, or I may need motivation to do the rubbish if you ask my partner, or something like that. So the difference there isn't willpower, believe it or not. It's essentially the links in our brain and how we see it in terms of where the goal or the desired action that we apparently would love to take, where that actually fits in on our values hierarchy. Again, most important, least important. Where does that fit? So I'll do a separate video in the future about how you can start to get clear on your values and really objectively peel back the layers and understand, okay, what are the things that drive me? Because if you are setting goals for yourself or expecting yourself to achieve goals, again, you'll see progressively how it's relevant to health. If you're expecting yourself to achieve any goal that is not relevant to your highest values, you will not achieve it. Or at best, you can motivate yourself short term. Anyone can do a 12-week health transformation. Anyone can find the motivation through that. Anyone can get, motivated for a photo shoot, wedding, these sort of things, right? But is it sustainable? And when I talk about, the context of this video, what's in the way of your health goals, I'm really talking about sustainability. Okay, I'm not interested in crash diets and things like that. I'm interested in how you can empower your life. And in this video about health. So we've talked about what values are, what they're not, just quickly, so that again, this video will hopefully get you thinking. Values are essentially, if you were to really hold yourself accountable and look at your actions, and I can appreciate this is hard to do objectively, looking at your own actions. That's why I have a job, have someone take the bias out of it and really help you peel back the layers. But it can be challenging to get real with yourself on that. But no doubt you've heard the terminology actions speak louder than words. And when it comes to values, the things that we value the most, there will always be evidence towards. So if I say saving and investing is important to me, if I'm not reading any financial books, I haven't taken a financial course, I haven't listened to a financial podcast, every week I'm saying I'll start next week, that's a fantasy about how I'd love my life to be. It's not an objective value. Because again, guys, if it was a value, whether it's health, finance, family, etc., if it was a true value, a high value, you would be doing it already, or there would at least be some notable evidence of progression in that area. So that's a bit about values, what they are, what they're not, and also the subtle cues, looking at your actions, not your words, not what you say to yourself, what your actions demonstrate, to start peeling back the layers of actually objectively who you are and what your values are. Because I can tell you now, and again, another topic for another video, but living in someone else's values, living by society's values, looking up to someone and saying they have a great life, I want what I want what they have. These are their priorities. I'm gonna inject their priorities and their actions into my life, is not sustainable, and it does not result in long-term fulfillment. That is essentially wearing a mask, which, to be fair, these social masks that we all wear, they do have relevance and they do play a place in society, but certainly they don't equate to fulfillment and maximum expression of our values long term. So now going back to health, and hopefully bringing this sort of full circle for a lot of you that are still with me. If you have a value on health, you can set a goal to do with your health, and of course you'll achieve it, because again, there is a relevant link in the brain neurologically of how your health goal is relevant or aligned to this purpose, to this meaning in your life called health. Potentially it's not called health, maybe it's called lifestyle, maybe it's called, you probably haven't got a name for it at this point if you're new to this sort of work, but the point being is, if you set a goal that is in line with your values, so if you say, look, my goal is to start going to yoga, or to lose 2 or 3 kg so that you can lose 2 or 3 kg so that you can be more active with your family, etc., etc. Again, if you have an intrinsic value on health, the probability of you achieving that goal is infinitely higher than if you didn't have a value on health. So the next question will be, and I would assume that if you're watching this video, a lot of you aren't achieving your health goals, or in many cases require motivation. And what we're looking at here in this case is essentially, you of course have values, whether or not you know what they are. But again, if you are needing motivation, or you're not as maybe consistent as you'd like with these goals, what we're looking at is that health is lower down the values hierarchy. Okay, and I'll just give you some examples of sort of value systems just off the top of my head, common things that I hear from clients. I almost don't like saying common because I don't want to sort of imply that there are standard value systems. There truly isn't. But, you know, off the top of my head, if there was a woman whose values were children and family, connection and relationships, and health. So those were the three things that really drove this woman, that, you know, her identity revolved around these things were fulfilling to her and meaningful. Again, children and family, connection, relationships, health. So in this example, let's call her Mary. In this example with Mary, you know, health doesn't need to be the highest priority in her life. Her children, her family, her friends, and her connections, relationships are. But health there is sort of number 3, so to speak, right? It's metaphorically in that values hierarchy. And essentially what that means, again, is that health has an intrinsic meaning to her. And so if Mary was to set a health goal, again, she doesn't need motivation. She's got her own intrinsic drive to achieve that goal. If we were to give a different example, let's say Wayne. Let's say Wayne's a business person, a director, or an entrepreneur, or what have you. And let's say his values were, you know, business and problem solving, self-development, self-growth, and financial security, financial freedom, you know, that sort of thing, anything in that area. Well, if Wayne expected himself to achieve certain health goals consistently, the probability would be that potentially with a bit of luck he could motivate himself short-term, but at the end of the day, he would likely run out of hours, because whether he's conscious of it or not, his time would be going towards business, financial growth, self-development. Because again, those are the things that drive him. Those are the things that make him tick. Now, if Wayne didn't know himself well enough, wasn't clear on who he is, potentially he's living in someone else's value system. He's expecting himself to be someone else. Maybe he took on expectations from his father that he should be going to the gym or prioritizing certain things. If he was living in someone else's value system, or even potentially living this expectation that he would love to be going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, well, the reality is he wouldn't achieve that goal, most likely. Now, that's again not to do with motivation, anything like that. It's a case of his actions will automatically be geared around his highest values. And that's not a good or bad or an ethically, morally wrong thing. It is to do with he's wired a certain way, he's certain things that are most meaningful to him. And so why the hell would anyone do something that's not high on their values, that's not meaningful to you? Hope that's making sense. So the first thing is, if we're achieving certain goals already, odds are they have some intrinsic meaning to us. They're linked to our values. That's part one. The second part, which I'll just give a little bit more detail on now, is if we are not achieving a health-related goal, or you know, any goal for that matter, it is wise for us to establish the links on how our goal is relevant to our other values. So, for example, if we go back to, what do we call it? We call it Mary. If we went back to Mary and we said, I believe I said her values were family and children, connection, relationships, and career study. Let's say that. No, sorry, health. So children and family, connections, relationships, health. So with Mary, for example, whilst health might not be the number one most important thing in her life, at the end of the day, it is important enough that she will find a way, she will organize herself, she'll be reliable to those health and fitness goals because it's a value to her. If we were to tweak that value system slightly, and let's call this lady let's call this lady Jackie, and let's say Jackie's, if we subbed out the value on health, and let's say we swap that out for study. So maybe she's 10 years earlier in her life and she's studying to be a professional or a teacher or something like that. And she expected herself to lose 10 kg, to get up in the morning to go to do yoga. Well, she may struggle with that because, again, her priorities are her family and her children, her connection, her relationships, and her study and her career. So at the end of the day, if she was going to run out of time for something, what do you think it's going to be for? It's going to be for those lower priority goals, okay? So when I talk about linking, what that looks like is making the neural connections, and there will be a separate video on this in the future about how you can actually go through this exercise that I would take my clients through. It's basically connecting the dots. And this is in a sense a cliche example, but I can tell you that it works. It works for people. So, if I ever get a male or female, anyone who's telling me about how they're not achieving their health goals, if I'm able to help them see and again create the links in the brain of how them empowering their health benefits their children, how they're being a better role model for their children, how they're going to be around longer for their children, how potentially they'll feel more confidence going on the children's camps, how they'll feel more confidence swimming at the beach, how it will create more moments with the family. I'm sure you can see already that those are real truths that usually people haven't quite connected with. And it's not that they're these abstract ideas, it's just that the light bulb hasn't gone off. And so if you aren't achieving your health goals, again, or any goal for that matter, I would really encourage you to really look objectively at what your life demonstrates your priorities are, what your values are. And again, don't go off what you think they should be or you want them to be. That isn't the truth. What does your life demonstrate that you do consistently, that gives you energy, where you're organized, reliable, focused, etc.? If you really start to at least somewhat drill down on what those values were, or get relatively close, and then ask yourself, how does your health goals, or how does what you'd love to do with your health, how is that relevant to these key values here? How does your health goal, how does losing 2 or 3 kilos, or whatever the health goal is, doing yoga in the morning, let's say that, how does that benefit your study? How does that make you more focused with the study? How does it help you manage stress better so you can study more effectively, etc., etc.? Again, I'm sure you can see that once we start to create these links, you have more buy-in, more meaning to these goals. You no longer require motivation. It becomes autopilot because it's something that's meaningful to you. Again, no one has to remind me to do a good job with clients, to make videos. I've got an intrinsic reason for it. I'll give one more example to round this video off and then we're done. Business person, because I want this to be applicable to everyone. So say you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, maybe you're a manager or an aspiring manager. If you start to understand about how you prioritizing your health makes you more focused at work potentially, maybe it makes your moods more stable, maybe you're improving your posture, your body language is more confident, you're more of a leader, etc., etc. Again, as you make these links, you will increase the buy-in and the actual perception and association around health, around the goal. And instead of you having your priorities here and then health off to the side, it becomes one. So I hope this is helpful. That is a bit or a bit and a half about why you're not achieving your health goals. I hope this is relevant. I hope that this content gets you thinking a little bit deeper about who you are, what's important to you, and why you do the things that you do. This is as always very sort of complex stuff. We're very deep human creatures, and I certainly even myself benefit from a non-biased opinion. But certainly I believe that if you really pay attention to some of the nuances in this clip, you'll be able to start to understand not only what's important to you, but how to create the links between said goal and values. And again, once these are no longer separate and they're viewed as the same, there will be congruency with your actions. You will not need motivation, and you'll be on your way to achieving your health goals. Thank you for watching.